Peace will fill the world when we finally understand that only from within can it be spread throughout the land. Every single person living peace in what we do, only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true.
Good morning, friends. I'm Leona Evans, minister at Unity of San Luis Obispo, an inclusive, progressive, spiritual community affirming the good in all life. Welcome to our Sunday morning live stream. I'm delighted that you're here. I'm thrilled to be here. We have a wonderful service for you today. So just sit back and relax. Allow this to be a time of inspiration, information, and transformation. I am thrilled to be able to share our New Thought Unity message with you every week, to be able to honor the presence of God, the presence of omnipresent Spirit in all creation, and the opportunity to remind us all that we are stronger, more loving, more lovable, and more light-filled than we perceive ourselves to be. So this is a time of trusting ourselves into the light, and it's a time to focus on the teachings and the meditation and the music. There are things that can generate or trigger a positive response in us that enable us to feel more positive about life and more able to generate those triggers for ourselves. So let's take a deep breath and relax. Just let extraneous thoughts go. Just park all of the problems and challenges and issues that we have to resolve. Just park them to the side of us. And perhaps when we go to reach for them after the service, they won't be as heavy as we thought. Take another deep breath and relax, and let's affirm together, I am now open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth. Once again, I am now open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth. And so it is. Amen. Let's open our service, as always, with a joy song sung by Matthew J. Evans. It is a wonderful way to get our energy up and feel the joy of music.
Good morning. Today we're going to sing There's Never Been a Better Time by Mark Welch. Please sing along with the lyrics on the bottom of the screen. There's never been a better time to be of this earth. Never been a better time to rise. Never been a better time to see our full worth. Let our scattered vision realign. There's never been a better time to start a new life. Never been a better time for truth. Never been a better time to turn it all around. Catch up to the dreams we have pursued. Enter this time of holy invitation to celebrate life. A billion years we have been in preparation. Well, now the time is here for us to free up every part of us. Step into the whole of what we are. There's never been a darker time to radiate the light. Never been a darker time to see. Never been a darker time so filled with possibilities. We're breathing in the darkness to be free. There's never been a better time to crawl out of the past. Never been a better time for humans. Never been a better time for this whole universe. Let fall away the cloak of ignorance. Enter this time of holy invitation to celebrate life. A billion years we have been in preparation. Well, now the time is here for us to free up every part of us. Step into the whole of what we are. There's never been a better time to be of this earth. Never been a better time to rise. Never been a better time to be of this earth. Never been a better time to rise. Never been a better time to be of this earth. Never been a better time to rise. Have a great morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, Matthew. That was just lovely. Some of you are probably thinking, especially those of you who might be tuning in for the first time, what do you mean there's never been a better time to be on this earth? There have been a lot of happier times, a lot of nicer times. And to that, I agree. There have been times where we've been less contentious, where situations have not been this dire, when we haven't been in a pandemic. All of that is true. But it's also true that there's never been a better time to be on this earth. And by that I mean, of course, obviously it's not the same as nicer or happier or less eventful. A better time means that this is the time when we need to muster up all of our spiritual strength and poise and begin to realize that we can be the change that we wish to see in the world, that we are the change that we wish to see in the world. And in order for us to really carry this off, in other words, really make a difference and start the movement from a culture of violence to a culture of peace, we need to know who we are and what we can do and the strength of the power of love, which is our divine nature. And so last week I talked about spiritual mysticism for the 21st century. Mysticism meaning the true essence of all of our spiritual teachings, all of the dogma, all of the various principles that we teach. There is something that begins at the foundation of all of these teachings, and that in fact is the mystical tradition. It's included in alchemy. It's included in the teachings of Hermes. It's included in all of the great teachings that have stood alongside traditional teachings all of these years. And because this type of spirituality, moving beyond dogma and down to the foundation of what is and what is true and love-filled and light-filled for everyone, we need to get back to the very basis of our metaphysical understanding. And I believe this is by going to the mysticism that goes beyond different practices. Now, it is said that there are 7 principles of mysticism, regardless of what theology they might be attached to, that are true for all of us and that speak to empowering us if we understand them wisely and if we give them attention and time and care. And so I'd like to share with you the beginnings of these 7 principles. I know that each one deserves a talk on its own, and we might not get through all 7 today, but what I'd like to do is see how it goes and recognize that these principles will be an overview for in-depth study of how they work and how we can work them over the coming weeks. We'll also be doing a Get Off Your Affirmation podcast on these principles as well, and see how many ways we can apply them to our lives. Perhaps we've heard them all before. Perhaps we've misinterpreted them or misunderstood them. Perhaps we understood them to the best degree that we could at that given time, and now have an opportunity to put a whole new spin on it. So let's begin with principle number 1. The principle of mentalism. Now, I know that's an old-fashioned term, but these teachings have been around for a long time. And basically, the principle of mentalism states that all is mind, and manifestation begins in mind and ends in the visible. Basically, in New Thought, we affirm that all the time. There's one presence and one power in all of the universe. That presence is God or Spirit, and its essence is good. Not just pleasant, but good, meaning whole and complete, with no parts missing. In other words, every variation of manifestation begins in mind, with the one universal, omnipresent, creative mind of Spirit. So let's lay this down as the foundation of all of the other principles, because the way we understand the other principles has to go back to the first premise. It has to be a philosophy that's clear and straightforward and has no variation or contradictions. And so we'll go to principle number 2, which is the principle of correspondence. And that is another way of saying as above, so below, or what happens in mind manifests in our world, in our lives. And so we do understand, many of us in New Thought understand this principle to mean that every thought that we have, everything we think, has the potential for manifestation. But it doesn't. It really can't, because most of the thoughts that we think are random. Oh, I need to go here, I need to do that, or maybe I want to go into that, or maybe I'll go ahead and take another route. Those thoughts don't have the power and potential and the actual vibrational weight to come into manifestation. So it's not every thought that we think that comes into manifestation. And I'll give this one example, which is a really important one, of the young child who was very resentful of the new baby sister that came into their family. And he kept wishing that she was dead, because that's what you do. Drop dead, when you're 6 or 7. People say that to each other. Children play that way, and that's just a term. However, what happened in this family was the baby died. And the little boy was crushed. He was ruined. He couldn't get over the pain and the guilt of having caused her death. And he wasn't even a New Thought student. He just believed that because he had wished her dead, and he felt that his words had that kind of power, and that was the reason she died. When in fact, even the medical profession had to diagnose it as sudden infant death syndrome. No, it wasn't the little boy's fault. He was angry and he was frustrated, and a few times he said, "I wish you were dead," but he didn't have that kind of power. No way did he have that kind of power, no matter how many films on cursing and witchcraft you've seen, and believe me, they're among my favorites. I really enjoy the horror movies, but there's no way that we can believe that we have that kind of power. Yes, there is a principle of correspondence, and if we want to experience something, this means that we need to put all of our thought behind it. We need to think about it. We need to meditate about it. We need to pray about it. We need to examine our belief system and get rid of all thoughts that disagree with that. We ideally would have prayer support. We would move forward and give the preponderance of our attention to that which we desire. I have to remind you that does not include praying for someone's demise or praying for that is simply a waste of thought power. It's a waste of thought power. Also, it's a waste of thought power to believe that we can influence someone else by the way we think and the words we say. When the truth is, if that person is not wishing to do things our way, they will not be affected by what we think. Now, let me just share an example with you that happened in my life a long time ago to someone who was a young friend of mine. It's many years ago when I first got into New Thought. I was in Santa Monica attending Unity by the Sea with Dr. Sue Sicking, who was a wonderful teacher. But my friend believed that all she had to do was speak the word and she could change circumstances in her life. And so she didn't exactly take appropriate precautions by walking alone at night because she felt she was protected. After all, she said the prayer for protection, and she felt that that would be enough. So this one night, she was walking home in the dark after one of our evening classes, and she came upon a mugger who said, "Give me your purse, give me your wallet." And she said, "I know you don't want to hurt me. I believe in you. I believe in love. And I believe that you really don't want to take my purse. And so I give thanks in advance that you do the right thing and that you let me keep my purse and go on home." At which point, the mugger threw her down on the ground and stole her purse. Now, the next day was Sunday morning, and after the service, she was obviously deeply upset. She had been crying. I asked her what was wrong. She didn't want to talk about it until afterwards, and she told me what had happened the night before. Not only did she reject all of the New Thought teachings because she felt they didn't work, but she packed up her bags and she was moving back to her hometown, which she left because she wanted to pursue a career that would work more effectively in Los Angeles. She was done with the teachings. She did her best. She said the prayer for protection. She told him he didn't want to hurt her. She told him she loved him, beholding the Spirit of God in him. And it didn't work. So we had a long talk. It never dissuaded her. She left Unity, Los Angeles, and I never was in contact with her again. From that time on, which was several years before I went to ministerial school, I decided that I would not teach magical thinking, that I would do my best to delve into these principles and try to figure out what they meant on the deepest level and not be reckless with them or immature. I mean, obviously, we're always going to have those elements within us because we're not finished evolving. But on something as powerful as the law of correspondence, as above, so below, what we think in mind comes into manifestation. We have to understand that at a much deeper level. I'll give you one more example. I had a counselee, again, many years ago, who was being abused by her boyfriend. Of course, as a mandated reporter, I realized that she was also telling me that her young daughter was also being physically abused by him. And I asked her not to tell me anymore unless she knew that I had to report it. So she stopped giving me the details of the situation, but she did go on to say that the principles of unity say that love is the strongest power in the world, and when you confront hate with love, love is always the transforming factor. I agreed with that, but then she told me she was using that principle to continue to stay with her boyfriend even though he was abusing her, because she felt it was her job to love him to wholeness. That's how she interpreted the law, the principle of correspondence. That's how she interpreted thoughts held in mind. She just thought she could pull it off. The truth is, our thoughts are the precursor to manifestation. The truth is that love does conquer all. But the point is that we don't use those powers to interfere with other people's lives or their decisions. We are not in the business of making people do things or not do things. Even though we've seen 40s movies, how the woman suffers and suffers until, the love of her life finally transforms and says, if it weren't for you, I'd still be an alcoholic. Lost Weekend, Ray Milland, and all the others like that. We, those of us who are of a certain age, were taught to do that. We were taught to do that. And then when we realized that thoughts held in mind are the potential for manifestation, we said, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to love them to wholeness. And there might actually be a way in the deeper teachings to be part of that transformation. But if a woman, a man, a child, a dog, if you're being abused, it is your job to walk away, not stay until you can't take another kidney punch, not stay and consider yourself a failure because you didn't make him see the light or her. The principle of correspondence. What we hold in mind has the potential for manifestation if we take it seriously enough to create a mindset that is so deep and rich that what we want to see manifested holds a prominent place in our lives. And it doesn't have anything to do with controlling other people's responses. Let's take a moment now and hear some wonderful music from Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans.
Here is a fun, uplifting song from the Broadway musical of the 1960s. It was 1964, in fact. The roar of the grease paint, the smell of the crowd. Cyril Ritchard, who, by the way, played Captain Hook on Broadway, It was in the show with Anthony Newley. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. On a wonderful day like today, I defy any cloud to appear in the sky. There any raindrop to block my eye. On a wonderful day like today, on a wonderful morning like this, when the sun is as big as a yellow balloon, even the sparrows are singing in tune. On a wonderful morning like this, on a morning like this, I could kiss everybody. I'm so full of love and goodwill. Let me say furthermore, I'd adore everybody to come and dine. The pleasure's mine and I will pay the bill. May I take this occasion to say that the whole human race should go down on its knees, so that we're grateful for mornings like these, on a wonderful day like today. On a wonderful morning like this, when the sun is as big as a yellow balloon, even the sparrows are singing in tune. On a wonderful morning like this, on a morning like this, I could kiss everybody. I'm so full of love and goodwill. Let me say furthermore, I'd adore everybody to come and dine. The pleasure's mine and I will pay the bill. May I take this occasion, did I just say that? Yes, pay the bill. It shall go down on its knees, so that we're grateful for mornings like these. The world's in a wonderful way, on a wonderful day. What did I say? A marvelous day. I'm getting carried away. On a wonderful day like today. There we go. Cyril Chard and the roar of the grease paint, the smell of the crowd. It's a wonderful day. On a wonderful day like today, it's a good thing.
So much fun. I love that one.
Thank you so much for your light and your love and your talents and willingness to share them with us. We deeply appreciate you. So, we've been talking about 7 principles of mysticism, truths that are present at the very basis of all religions and all philosophies, truth that we have in common if we're willing to look beneath the surface and understand that these principles, when taken seriously and deeply and backed by prayer and meditation, that these principles are those that will result in transformation in consciousness for the better. We're here knowing that we have tremendous work to do. These principles will help us understand that we have the power to do it and maybe dispel some old myths about what those principles really mean. The third principle is the principle of vibration. In other words, everything, seen and unseen, is energy, vibrating at certain levels of expression. When we align ourselves with like vibrations, in other words, if we think or believe something very, very strongly, and it's a core belief, we will find that life responds to our beliefs. Now, it doesn't really matter if our beliefs are true. If they're true to us and we practice that faith that works both ways, positive or negative, all we have to do is believe it strongly enough, and we will find that the universe will respond. Like attracts like. Now, one of the great psychologists of the 20th century who wrote the groundbreaking book many years ago, The Psychology of Self-Esteem, Nathaniel Branden, one of my great teachers, and he was a dear, dear friend. He taught the principle of vibration this way, or the law of attraction, or like attracts like. He taught it this way. He said, if a person is going to a public event where there will be hundreds and hundreds of people, believing that they have a need to be hit on the head with a hammer, before long, someone is going to come into their experience who has a hammer and a deep-seated need to hit somebody over the head. And that's the principle of vibration. Like attracts like. If you believe that you're unworthy, the universe responds, not because it has anything against you or thinks you're stupid. The universe responds because that's the law. Like attracts like. Like the single-celled life forms are attracted to one another. It's just a process of the way life works. And so that's why self-knowledge is so important. That's why it's so important to examine, to look at, to get help with understanding what it is that we really believe, and to know that the power of the principle of vibration is so strong that when we hold that thought in mind and live by its beliefs, that we're going to find verification that what we believe is true. But the reality is, it's not what's true. It's what's true for us. It's not what's true for anybody else. And interestingly enough, no matter how much they tell us that we're lovable or worthy, if that belief of unworthiness is stuck to the degree that it is a centralized part of our personality, we're not going to be able to accept that love or that encouragement. The fourth is the principle of polarity. What we do in our five-sense world is that we practice duality. There's this and that, but this is different from that, and they don't have any similarities. What we do is separate good from evil, and we try to eradicate evil in order to have only good. And, well, you can see how far that's gotten us. The truth is that there are things that are identical in nature, but different in degrees, kind of like the dialectic. It's moving from duality to unity. Take, for example, hot and cold. Hot and cold are different in degrees, but they're equal because they're both temperature. Now, this is important. I mean, it was important to me when I finally figured it out, but years ago, when I was a child, there were two faucets in the bathroom. The C water faucet, which was for cold water, and the H water faucet, which was for hot water. Well, I thought that cold water was different from hot water, and that if you turned off the cold water, the hot water would always be hot and would be running for you. Now, even though it took some time for it to warm up, I never really got the fact that cold water would be used as it would warm up to become hot. And so there you go. I thought they were two separate things. The fact is that there are polarities which can be identical in nature, but manifest themselves to different degrees. Therefore, I say unto you that if Dr. Jekyll had known that principle, he never would have given all his power to Mr. Hyde. He didn't even know he was doing it. He thought evil was something different. It was inside man, but humankind, but it got there and it could be removed. A lot of people think that. Oh, look, that person is evil. Oh, look, that person is good. They're always nice. They're always happy. We have a very childlike view of human nature. And what we're working toward is an understanding that polarity are different degrees of the same idea. And by transforming behaviors and thoughts and beliefs, we can reconcile the two and transform, not eliminate, but transform the unwanted into a different form of wanted. Number 5 is the principle of rhythm. Rhythm between opposing poles. We already figured out that everything is in motion. Everything is vibrating. But this principle of rhythm helps us understand that everything is in motion. Everything goes back and forth. Everything is in a state of flux. Everything moves between opposing poles. So don't let the pole swing too wide. Don't get so clear and dogmatic about taking a stand at one side of the pole that is so strong that when the change comes, and it's inevitable that it will, it swings you to the other side of the pendulum before you even thought you were going anywhere. When the swings are too wide, we go into shock. We don't understand why this change is happening, and we resist. We don't like change at the human level. We don't really like it. We like things to be the way they are, the way they were, and we believe if we hold on strongly enough, they'll continue to be that way. But no. All life is in flux. To everything there is a season, from Ecclesiastes. Don't swing too wide or we'll get stuck. The principle of cause and effect? Yes. Let's find out what we can control. Let's find out how strong a need our ego has to try to find the cause of things we don't understand, because we don't like to not understand. We don't like it at all. We think it's dangerous. We want to be in control. So what happens when something occurs that we don't understand? Well, we've got to find a reason for it. Otherwise, it's too risky. It's really risky not to know why things happen. And so what happens when we assign responsibility, which turns into blame, for things that we don't understand? Oh, we start scapegoating others. We other them. We put them in a place of badness. It's your fault that this happened. Or conversely, it's my fault that this happened. Again, control fallacies, all kinds of illogical thinking that brings us to a place of needing to have answers to such a degree that we'll make them up. 14th century Spain, the Black Plague. The plague was everywhere, killing hundreds and thousands of people. And the government decided, because the government didn't know who brought it there, where it came from, they came to the conclusion that the Jews poisoned the well waters in Spain and spread the plague. Well, don't you know that they were thrown out of the country before you could say scapegoating again? And there are people that believed it for hundreds of years. We can't continue to be so insecure that if we can't give a reason for why something happened, then we get all agitated. No, we've got to live with uncertainty. There is a law of cause and effect, but with quantum mechanics, we can't even begin to touch the hem of its garment. It's so complex. We understand cause and effect, but not to the simplistic and possibly dangerous degree that we have been. Let us live with that uncertainty. Let us refrain from having to find out who did it, and be okay with the uncertainty and know that everything we need to know in the future we will receive as guidance. Finally, gender balance. I know I'm going on, but I just want to talk about this for 2 minutes, and we'll talk about this more in the coming weeks. Gender balance is about claiming left brain, right brain, male, female, heaven, earth, number 8, number 7 on the Enneagram, all of the personalities on the personality tests. We don't want to type ourselves into a corner, and we don't want to say, this is the way I am, and then get confronted with something that these skills don't help. We need to know that we're holistic by nature. And with that, let us move into our time of meditation and connect our many selves. Feel a sense of holism, completeness, and an understanding that we are one with the mystical teachings of the wisdom of the ages. Breathe deeply and relax as we move into our time of inner contemplation, relaxation, affirmation, and integration of today's message. Let us affirm in the quiet of our own being, I am one with the principle of mentalism. I affirm the one presence and one power in all the universe, God the Good. I am one with the principle of correspondence, and I understand that all reality comes from within us, from our mind. I am mindful of the thoughts I think. I am one with the principle of vibration, and align my consciousness with the highest possible vibration of health, inspiration, and wholeness. I affirm the principle of polarity. I understand that there are differences in degrees, but that in truth, all opposites are identical in nature. I am one with the principle of rhythm. I acknowledge that I am in the flow with the motion and the rhythm of life. I affirm the principle of cause and effect. I know the difference between what I cannot change and what I can. I affirm the principle of gender balance and let go of the need to separate myself and diminish my wholeness. I am both male and female. I am both knowledgeable and innocent. I am both strong and non-resistant. I am able to do and not do, depending on what is most appropriate. I am balanced and whole in every way. And so it is. Amen. It's time now in our service to bless our offerings to Unity of San Luis Obispo. The law of giving and receiving, which is a very important part of our mystical teachings, helps us understand that when we give joyfully, we set a vibrational tone, we set the law in motion that enables the universe to support us joyfully and lovingly as well. Please remember that a portion of your tithes to Unity of San Luis Obispo goes to support human rights and the conservation of our beloved planet Earth. Let's speak the words of our prosperity statement together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give and all that I receive.
Here is Marvin Hamlisch's first film score from 1968. The movie was The Swimmer with Burt Lancaster, directed by Frank Perry. And it goes like this. The Swimmer from Marvin Hamlish,
Beautiful movie, beautiful score.
1968. Yeah, it's a beautiful theme.
Beautiful job as always. Thank you so much. Let's sing our peace song, shall we?
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyful vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And now let's speak the words of our prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Friends, please press the like button and let us hear your comments. I am anxious to hear from you. I love it when you let us know what you want to hear about. God bless you and have a wonderful week. You deserve it.
Every single person living peace in what we do. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true.